Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shania, and it is my honor to be your host for the 6th Breakout track of the Philippine Digital Convention 2020 entitled eBPO, brought to you by PLDT Enterprise, Smart, and ePLDT. We're excited to have you join us as we continue to help you discover how you can pivot your enterprise towards success to ensure lasting and effective change as we enter the new future of work. Truly, this year's Philippine Digital Convention is set to be like no other, as this is the first all-virtual iteration of the convention, but as we like to say at PLDT, pivot or perish. And this virtual convention is but a manifestation of how we've transformed in light of the current business landscape. Likewise, we hope that it serves as a venue for you to find ways for your organization to continuously evolve. But before we get to that, we would once again like to thank our official event partners. Today, we will be taking a look at how the BPO sector has reinvented their ways of working amid the current business landscape. The session also aims to detail the latest in digital innovations that will heighten the sector's operational efficiency and enabling BPO firms to become more resilient in today's new future of work. Defy limitations and borders as we bring technology and industry experts together with respected local and global leaders from various key industries across the region and the world, together in this virtual space. But just because we're virtual, it does not mean that this year's session is going to be any less interactive or engaging. We would definitely love to hear from you. So do share your thoughts and insights by keying them in the chat box or by posting them on your respective social media accounts using the official event hashtags Brace for Impact and hashtag PHDigicon2020. Also get a chance to win exciting raffle prizes just by answering our feedback form, which will be made available after this session, so stay tuned for that. And now, to share how the world's sudden shift to telecommute disrupted the industry, as well as forecasts on the future of work for 2021, our first presenter is the head of research for GLOBALDATA Asia Pacific. He brings compelling market data and insight to enterprise buyers, service providers, and vendors. Currently, he supports clients in linking ICT modernization to business outcomes. Get ready to experience impact as we start off this session with GLOBALDATA Service Director for the Asia Pacific, Mr. DUSTIN KEHOE.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for attending DIGICON. Thank you so much for your time. This afternoon, we're going to talk about business process outsourcing. Sure, this industry has seen a lot of changes. It's seen its fair share of technology and innovation. We've always used cloud to virtualize, to automate, to dial up and dial down resources as and when we need them. I don't think that's going to be too new for the delegates and for you all who've been working in this industry. What has been new has been the last 10 months. And not only do we have to do cloud, or we toy around and make cloud part of our environment, but because of social distancing, we now have to do that from home. Home in a remote and distributed location. We are away from our colleagues. We are out of earshot from our supervisor. And we have to somehow do all of this without impacting the experience of the employees or the customers one bit. That is actually quite challenging. There's a human element to it. There's a technology element to it. So how does the world's largest work-from-home experiment impact 9 sectors? Well, this is what I tried to convey in this slide. In travel and tourism, it's one of the hardest hit, but it's very cutthroat. It's very competitive. We GLOBALDATA, we follow that sector very, very closely. One of the things that you're seeing is a lot of rebookings, a lot of cancellations, but it's not so straightforward. When you make a cancellation, it's a supply chain involved. It's perhaps the tour operator. It's the hotelier. It's maybe the rental car agency. It's the airline. And all of these things have an impact on the other. And we're actually doing this so quickly that we have to manage all these moving parts, yet be very responsive to the customer. And it's so hard to manage the supply chain in these difficult times. But let's take healthcare. Health, for example, you have to pick up right away. There's a lot of inquiries. There's a lot of nervous people out there, and there's a lot of fake news. So you have to deal with this, and this has a real impact on your inbound calls. Not only that, but you're also doing a lot of, remote teleconferencing, for example. You may also be involved with contact tracing. In the case of some other sectors like retail, you're dealing with a huge volume of orders, maybe. You need to check the supply chain. Your customers want to know the location of goods at a point of time. The supply chain is always multimodal. The channel is always omni-channel. We like to talk and engage with our retailers across multiple touch points. And oftentimes the customer, who's always right, by the way, could at any time, without reason, without explanation, change the pickup or the drop-off point. So again, we got to be really customer-centric and on our toes. And then when you get into banking and insurance and some of these other areas, there's a lot going on with robotic process automation to bring things in the back end, maybe to give you more customized offerings, maybe it's a portfolio management or that expert financial and insurance advice. So we're using a lot of technology, we're using at scale, and we're trying to adapt. But let's take a look at what's happening with regard to cloud and why we've gone to cloud in the first instance in this sector. If you take a step back, how did we build contact centers to begin with? We started with infrastructure. We looked at networks and VPNs and things like that. Then we looked at PSTNs and PBXs, CPE equipment. Then we got involved with our dialers. Then on top of that, finally we got involved in workflow automation and call recordings and quality assurance. And then eventually, we got to the business process. The problem with this first triangle on the left is the business process is last. We started with infrastructure. But you make one tweak to business process, one twitch to, say, IVR, you have to change everything else in the mixture. You're dealing with multi-suppliers. There's a lot of unplanned costs and complexity with this kind of configuration. Now let's shift over to the other way. The other triangle is called with the cloud. We've actually been able to do the business process first and think about the infrastructure last. That's given us new service delivery models, such as social media integration. We can look at Facebook and other social media feeds. We can understand our customer sentiment at any point in time. Then we layer on top of that communication platforms. Not only can we monitor, but we can respond and communicate across the channels in which they want to talk to us, being the business. It's allowed us to be more flexible with our financial terms. We moved to an OpEx-based model. We have a short-term marketing campaign. We can ramp up on seats, and then we pull them down when we no longer need them for that marketing campaign. We've been able to speak the language of business outcomes, customer experience, employee experience, real-time sentiment analysis. We've been able to understand things like next best action through insights from data, or even be able to predict the call volumes. Cloud has been absolutely amazing, but it's not quite everything we need now, especially in the last 10 months. Now, what's going on here is we've had to cope. We cannot even turn up to work if we wanted to turn up to work because of the lockdown and the social distancing restrictions, depending on your location in the world. We have to worry about the health and safety, rightfully so, of staff. We have to scale based on we have a lot of volume of calls, but then we have a distribution of the workforce. Somehow we have to be resilient with agents spread all across the country. That's why we need to start thinking about work from home solutions. So we've been looking at things like virtual agents for the virtual agents and automation. We've been looking at techniques to reduce the inbound calls and giving more training to our workers. These are some of the characteristics. But we're going to be using, once we've got the foundation of security, compliance, network performance, and cloud, we got to think of other ways to drive different and new intelligent workflows. There'll be more chatbots, transcription, and sentiment analysis. We're going to be integrating IVRs, for example, deeper into our CRMs to truly try to understand the end-to-end customer journey. It's easier said than done, but that's what this really means. We need to think about the workflow automation, do it as a service, and route the calls to the subject matter expert. All from home, all without impacting customer experience or employee experience. That's the challenge that we're facing in this industry today. So, what does the future look like in 2021? We think you're going to be doing a lot more with voice APIs, for example, for hotlines, for contact tracing. Also, you'll be seeing a lot more click to call, click to dial. That's going to be in the web applications. That's going to be in the mobile applications. It's wonderful if we talk about putting things in the cloud. We're definitely going to be doing that. But don't forget, there's never one cloud. We're actually talking about hybrid cloud. Contact centers traditionally have been about 80% premise, 20% cloud. As we move to cloud, we're not going to one cloud. We're doing multiple types of clouds that need to talk to each other as we add or drop more services, depending on our vertical, depending on our customer requirements. The demands for omni-channel are even get greater. There's going to be social media integration, chats, messaging apps, email, and we need to integrate a view end-to-end to really understand the journey and the sentiment of our customers. We're going to hear a lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning. That is going to be embedded in every single aspect of the contact center. It's going to be the predictive analytics. It's going to help us to understand next best action, but next best action at scale, and finding a way to do that from home. We're going to see a lot more with APIs, maybe things to do with multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, to know that I know who I'm talking to and I can perhaps verify over text messages, things like that. And fundamentally, it's not always solved with just technology. There's business process, there's people and culture. We got to be mindful of our people that work for us and the employee experience and the intertwinings of employee experience and customer experience. We've seen at GLOBALDATA and through countless other surveys that one really impacts the other. And if we give the employees the tools for the trade, ability to work through the cloud environments, ability to extend those cloud environments to the home, ability to give us a single pane of glass with no chewing gum, no glue, the single pane of glass with the integrated view, you're going to have happier employees, you're going to be more responsive to customers who are going to lead to better outcomes across the board. I want to thank you today for your time, for joining us. We have a wonderful, distinguished panel of experts who will be speaking to you. And please ask us questions at the end. This session is interactive.
Thank you, Mr. KEHOE. Our next speaker obtained his bachelor's degree in business administration with a minor in MIS from the Moyne College in Syracuse, New York. He's worked with Transcom Worldwide managing sales and business development for the APAC region. Prior to joining the Philippine telecom giant, he led the sales team at Caliber Technology Ventures, a Silicon Valley-based startup based out of Manila. He's also a seasoned sales professional with experience across a wide variety of industry verticals, including mortgage banking, financial services, publishing, software and IT, and BPO. He is currently the Vice President and Head of the Customer Relationship Management Group, handling the outsourcing and offshoring industry of PLDT Enterprise. To walk us through the evolving eBPO and an overview of the latest technologies accelerating change and transformation, let's all welcome Corporate Relationship Management Head of PLDT Enterprise, Mr. Victor Aliwalas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time to join us for the BPO session of DigiCon. It's crazy to think how drastic life has changed since last year. We enjoyed the camaraderie and the face-to-face discussions with all of you at the Marriott. Now, we're all here in our respective homes and offices watching this individually. Who would have thought we'd be in this predicament? I hope to share some good insights with you today and keep this discussion informative. We'll go over how significantly the industry has changed in our eyes as your telco and ICT partner and what we are doing to support you moving forward from the pandemic. Now, the main priority for us has been based upon the discussions with our clients, which is to set you up with your work-from-home efforts and to get your work-from-home agents connected, productive, in the most efficient manner possible. So what's happening? As you can see from the chart, it's pretty clear that the work-from-home efforts are continuously growing and will most likely stay this way for a while. Now, the red represents non-productive workforces, the blue represents work-from-home, and the gold represents on-site operations. The transition from the office to the home rose from 40% to 63% in just 4 months. Majority of the captive players we have are also doing 100% work from home. So we at PLDT have had to really pivot and repurpose and refocus our manpower to accommodate this mass exodus from the operations centers to the work from home. We will work with our data analytics team and IBPAP to get you some new figures for Q4 2020. Speaking of that, we'd like to invite you to join PLDT's online insight community for BPO. We'll be sending out regular updates on the industry and invite you to join our surveys so we can continuously update our clients on the current concerns and trends, of course without divulging any of your information. Now, your opinions truly matter to us as we carefully design products and services with your needs in mind. To join our group, you can connect with us at pldtenterpriseconnected.com. How have we served the industry? Since the start of ECQ, the enterprise alone has deployed over 50,000 Wi-Fi units, comprised of SOHO routers and Wi-Fi LTE dongles. The fixed work from home, fiber or DSL installs are in the tens of thousands with another 50,000 plus pipeline, and it continues to grow every day. Although the ship has definitely started to sail, it's never too late, and it's better to get started as soon as possible. Now, keep in mind, this is all exclusive from our home consumer and retail groups, which I'm confident have also provided a significant amount of help to the industry. Some of the million-dollar questions that our clients have been asking include the following. How long does it take to install the work from home, and what is the process? So first, we'll request a list of employee addresses, latitude and longitude coordinates for us to conduct the feasibility study for you. So we've been able to expedite our feasibility checking process by a new RPA solution that will give us results faster than before, cutting down the turnaround time and filtering out who can and can't be accommodated. From there, we'll provide you with a feasibility list and then start liaising with a POC from your end to schedule installations on those particular employees. Now, our PM team will do a call out. If there's no reply, there will be no dispatch. So we need to ensure full cooperation with your work from home agents. Next step is survey install. That's 2 to 3 days. PLDT will confirm the facility and check the customer premise. Then there's aerial installation, which could be 3 to 5 days. PLDT contractor will endorse the tel set and the modem. And then after that is set, we'll move on to activation acceptance. So that's 1 to 2 days. PLDT and the subscriber will test the internet and then accept if it's okay. Installation is completed. Now, there's a couple things that you need to look out for that could hold up the process from both a PLDT perspective and a customer dependency perspective. As a customer, sometimes they cancel their request, they're not interested, their area is on lockdown, they have to wait for head office verification, there's no reply, they're not aware, wrong address, etc. So those are all things that we need to take into consideration. Now, from a PLDT perspective, we may not have fiber, VDSL facility may not be available, and also manpower has been a concern because of the sheer volume of requests for work from home. So this is truly a partnership because there are so many variables, both from PLDT and the client, that need to make this partnership work. Now, a lot of companies have also been asking us for our network infrastructure so they can better source their workers for talent acquisition. Now, due to the security and sensitivity of our network, we have to be judicious on what we share so we don't give exact footprints or heat maps of where our infrastructure is. But what we have done is created a coverage checking platform where you have the liberty to input certain addresses and locations, and our system will then populate our capabilities in that area. So rest assured, we're consolidating our resources and improving our internal processes, which will allow us to work better with the BPOs with your talent acquisition efforts based on geographies. So in regards to wireless, there's a lot of questions regarding our capabilities to handle the BPO's requirements. And we're confident that the current voice over data needs are being addressed since we've been successfully supporting agents with wireless and fixed wireless data for the past several months. Of course, it's not perfect given the current wireless network model of shared bandwidth, but you guys can be assured that we are continuously working on our network, fixing the quality improvement, given that this has been an overall mandate of the PLDT group. And our investments and transitions to 5G eventually will also most certainly be able to accommodate the voice and data requirements of your work-from-home agents. So in terms of areas with good LTE coverage, our clients' work-from-home agents have been very successful, very productive, and they're able to conduct their normal operations via our routers, and lines of businesses from the home continue to flourish. Now, here are a few initiatives that we highlighted, showing how we're sustaining and continuing our momentum. One in particular is the ADSL copper to fiber migration, which has been a big push and a focal point for this year. This is ongoing, and we've made a big stride despite the pandemic. Now, in months following the lockdown in March, PLDT's network operations made adjustments in its work processes and gradually scaled up its ability to build and repair. PLDT covered roughly 7.8 million homes, passed in the first half of 2020, up 8% from the end of 2019. And the total number of available fiber-powered ports increased 5% to 3.67 million, with 1.6 million available for new subscribers. The total footprint of PLDT's fiber optic network has now reached 360,000 kilometers, which is the country's most extensive digital data infrastructure. Our commitment is to improve internet services, and we have been consistent and continuing to do so. We've increased our capital expenditures to 70 billion pesos for 2020, on top of roughly 260 billion pesos total capex from 2015 to 2019. So we're enhancing our commitment to SLAs on the turnaround times for the additional and sufficient ports in areas that are overutilized, and our network teams are working on aggressive enhancements. So for this year alone, and specific to the enterprise group, PLDT has deployed hundreds of additional NAPs, resulting to thousands of additional fiber ports year to date. And again, this is distributed nationwide. So part of our 2020 CapEx consists of network and IT upgrades, business expansion, and of course our data centers. Projects that are going to be prioritized in 2020, second half, include LTE expansion, transport and backhaul rollout, and of course fiber upgrades. Another concern is manpower. So in terms of supplemental manpower to handle these sheer volumes that we're getting, our Procurement Council has already approved the hiring of additional organic field personnel and outsourcing those legally outsourced works to accredited and capable third-party contractors. So we'll also be adding roughly 35% additional manpower this year. Now, in regards to 5G, our commercial rollout started in July of 2020 for business districts and, of course, high-traffic areas. With Smart's 5G, mobile users will experience faster and more efficient mobile speeds, up to actually 3 times faster than LTE. Now, my LTE right now at home is clocking in at around 134 download and 12 upload. So I'm super excited to be doing almost 400 from my phone. Essentially, Smart 5G will provide ultra-reliable, low-latency communications, enhanced mobility capability, and experiences on the go for users. But most importantly, give our BPO work-from-home force the power they need to run all their data-intensive platforms, as well as VoIP calls. You can access the 5G with a smart certified SIM, as well as a 5G-enabled device, and of course, a 5G-ready area. So that's something to look forward to. So how are we moving forward to enhance your work-from-home experience? We've put together a full suite of solutions to address your workforce's work-from-home requirements. We're going to deep dive further into more solutions later today, but we wanted to briefly discuss the following at a high level so you can bring this back to your respective teams and see how you can integrate this into your current processes. Beyond Fiber. So Beyond Fiber aims to reinvent the traditional burst speeds from the usual fixed line connections by providing 3 times the minimum bandwidth guarantee with even better reliability, giving you a minimum of 90% of the subscribed bandwidth or 45 Mbps at 90% reliability, which is 10% improvement, even on a shared network infrastructure. So for your IT and your procurement, that means better value. Get more reliable connections at a lower cost. But we want to bring these capabilities to your work-from-home setup. Lastly, for those of you with more critical workloads and need a way to connect remotely via VPN, we have our Cisco Meraki Z3 device. This is made specifically for telecommuting that provides your IT teams with more visibility and control over your work-from-home networks. So next, for efficiency purposes, we've added ZAP to our suite of solutions. The PLDT ZAP is an on-demand, instant, anytime, anywhere, any internet network, programmable, software-defined application-specific network platform. I know that's a tongue twister, but it's the truth. So what are the key attributes of this product? One is performance. It can increase the WAN throughput performance by 1.5 to 5 times compared to the traditional network or the plain internet. 2 is security. It is secure by design with zero trust. Each endpoint has an embedded software firewall using authenticate before connect processes and establishes the least privileged access. 3 is agility. It builds connectivity to the cloud within minutes because it's software only and programmable. 4 is flexibility. ZAP Network allows the setup of application-specific policies tailored to individual customer requirements. And 5, whether it's a work-from-home environment or even employees who are on a mobile, these users can access applications in a data center or applications hosted in the cloud. Internet infrastructure will be used, and the PLDT ZAP will act as the overlay network to orchestrate the flow of traffic from the user to the hosted applications. I hope the past few minutes were informative and applicable to your current situations. Should you have further questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to myself or your respective relationship managers and our business head. We have many more interesting discussions after this, so we thank you again for your time with us today, as well as your trust and confidence and partnership with PLDT. We're doing our absolute best to support you and your teams through the pandemic and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. ALIWALAS. Now, let's dive right into the global business services versus bespoke process delivery in the BPO industry. With this, let's all welcome the Managing Director for ELSEVIER Philippines, a 4,000-strong shared services and technology company servicing LexisNexis, ELSEVIER, and the RELX group of companies worldwide, Mr. Mark Lewin.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here with PLDT and the panel of speakers at DigiCon. I've had the excitement to work across several industry verticals here in the Philippines over the past 2 decades. In particular, within the BPO space, I've witnessed the transformation of the industry from transactional voice to levels of maturity and capability, and more recently automation, which has been truly unprecedented. As we look into the future, the question is now, what does BPO look like in the next 20 years, or even the next 5? Amidst disruption, born from new technology, maturing delivery models, and business imperatives now being reshaped by the COVID pandemic, we can certainly expect the industry to remain dynamic and further reshape itself in the years to come. Topmost trends highlighted by speakers are embedded in various maturity models, include automation and RPA, and the realization of AI's capability to transform human-executed processes as we know it. Software as a service, cloud computing, creating value from data, and global business process delivered as a packaged solution. But closer to home, here in the Philippines, we see a continual shifting of landscape within the BPO industry, greater concentration of third-party providers, increasing number of new entrants among the captives, and the introduction of more targeted or industry-specific service models from both. In the next few minutes, I'd like to provide a brief focus on the interplay of global business services, the movement to large-scale, consistent, and highly automated process deployed across the enterprise and delivered to multiple customers as a service, versus a countering theme in an ever more complex world, the need for more customized or bespoke services tailored to individual companies or environments. How can these 2 trends exist simultaneously, and are they mutually compatible? Firstly, we have to understand the practical realities. Organizations are shaped or limited by their own environment and how they adopt or adapt to global business services. Legacy systems are persistent in any organization which has been in existence for more than a decade, and this has been becoming exponentially more complicated where the growth model has included mergers and acquisitions. And then, of course, there's people and personality preferences. These are another reality which drive decisioning. The age-old debate about best delivery location or best delivery model to deliver value is somewhat out of scope for anything less than an hours-long debate. But what we often see are similar companies in the same industry reaching polar opposite conclusions. This shows that decisioning is not a perfect science, and the human factor, whether irrational or irrational, cannot be fully removed. Will is the third factor. Developing and deploying GBS is by its very definition a significant goal requiring full alignment across stakeholders. Organizations each must weigh the cost and the opportunity cost of such an investment, including factors such as protection of intellectual property, execution risk with an unfamiliar partner or loss of control, even to a captive, and then long-term gains, balanced with shorter-term financial risk with capital requirements required to build a captive. The result is that global business services is often described as a journey and not a destination, precisely because of these factors. It's difficult for large enterprises or even small enterprises to create the will and resources to make the leap to truly a global business services model. So this is the environment of today and tomorrow. But even with a complex, completely rational environment, the BPO industry evolution will be shaped by the fact that the process needs are similar, but industry environments and business needs are not. Industry and depth of business understanding will translate to greater need for customization of service and will drive a more of a bespoke model of service needs at the same time that globalization of process remains a factor. So this need for bespoke, highly customized services, as opposed to this rigorous march just towards an elusive GBS vision, is seen with core business processes in the value chain. Consider two examples. In healthcare, such as in an outpatient clinical environment, what drives value for the patient as well as for business results? Physical therapy, for example, is often prescribed as a result of a diagnosis from an orthopedic doctor or specialist. For the provider, revenue is maximized when the number of physical therapy sessions prescribed is fully utilized, as payers will reimburse up to that limit. So driving the number of visits per diagnosis is a key dynamic metric to achieve business results. But ironically, from the patient perspective, they often feel better after 2 or 3 visits. And in any case, we're tired of the logistics challenges of going to and from a clinic. But feeling better doesn't translate to healing. Indeed, the symptoms of the underlying medical issue may be relieved, but the true cause has not yet been healed, leaving the patient at even greater risk of re-injury or complication after a partial course of treatment. So visits per diagnosis is similarly a key metric to drive greater patient outcome. This is a vast simplification of the dynamics surrounding the point of care. But the point is that the enabling of health professionals and their patient interaction is a very industry and domain-specific science. It remains unique due to regulation, psychology of patients, evolving medical science, and a host of other factors. Or in another example, consider the case of core commercial insurance offerings. The 2 core value drivers of any insurance or any insurer are deciding and accepting risk and deciding and adjudicating a claim. And in particular with commercial risks, which are large, complex, and are transacted in a highly regulated environment, the impact of process and technology is manifested by bringing greater analytics and insights from data to the hands of the underwriter. And freeing the underwriter's time to spend more time with customers, where risk differentiation and policy and the value of risk transfer is often not fully understood by clients. The commercial industry is built around the truth, even today, that insurance is not bought, but has to be sold. So the key measure of success is in the amount of time an underwriter can spend in the market, engaging with brokers to drive revenue for the business and greater risk transfer for clients. Globalized business process, even when taken to the level of underwriting support for commercial insurance for a particular product, capacity-driven such as property, or feature-driven such as cyber, or for a particular region, must recognize both the nuances of the customer and business model, and as well as the customization required to deliver effectively. This is the environment of challenge for future BPO models, to effectively balance the efficiency and speed of global business services and globalized business process and technology, which is inherent in this model with the need for deep industry understanding and customized process and data-driven insight required to be relevant. The interplay will continue as providers, both captive and third-party, build out depth and understanding of industry verticals and the many permutations which exist and are continually evolving each year and continue forward. In the end, successful providers will have to master the art and science of the real-world enterprise environments and achieve an effective balance between the mass and customization. Thank you and good afternoon. I look forward to the Q&A to follow.
Thank you, Mark. Again, we would love to hear your thoughts and insights, so do keep them in the chat box or you may post them on your respective social media accounts. But when doing so, don't forget to use the official event hashtags Brace for Impact and hashtag PHDigicon 2020. Alright, let's take a closer look now at technologies that have revolutionized the way we do business. Let's all welcome Mr. Ivan DIUNGA of MULTISYS.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I believe it's an understatement to say that the COVID-19 pandemic has shifted how the world runs. During the lockdown period in the Philippines, some BPO companies were allowed to operate. However, they were required to provide accommodation to their employees or transition to working from home. But it was hard not only for businesses, but also for BPO agents and most employees to adjust to these sudden changes. Here in MULTISYS, we've been providing free accommodation, free food including wellness programs, and free use of facilities and gym. We did this before the pandemic, but even with these amenities, we had to adjust to our operations. With the majority of our employees working from home, since the implementation of the enhanced quarantine restrictions. 90% of our employees were at home, and then 10% our skeletal workforce, including myself. We had to stay in the office during this 3-month ECP period. I can remember in the early stages, the clients had to set a meeting with us to adjust their timelines to meet their operational needs. And we spent a lot of time planning and strategizing. Meetings were set to non-stop. While these are all happenings, we have to train our people and this kind of setup. And it took us like weeks or months to adapt to this new normal. And we need to teach our people how to communicate effectively. Due to more projects coming in, we have to double our number of our operations. Personally, my daily routine and weekend activities were all scrapped off. And this new office environment will require us new management skills. By now, restrictions are slowly lifting and companies digitize at least some parts of their business to protect employees and serve their customers facing mobility restrictions in this new normal. And yet, many businesses globally are still affected by COVID-19 pandemic. This has meant a surge of unemployment rates in different industries. The Philippines alone has seen at least 2.6 million displaced workers due to closure of businesses within Metro Manila, the country's capital. Well, despite the surge of unemployment rates, there were also some positive projections seen, particularly the IT-BPO industry. The Department of Labor and Employment Secretary Sylvester Bello said that the subsequent global recession would force the Western countries to offshore more business processes, and it was likely to go to the Philippines, particularly Clark, Cebu, and of course here in Manila. And MULTISYS, we have had a surge of projects coming in from our partners to digitize their businesses, including overseas, and one of them was technology partnership with the largest telecommunications company in Brunei, DataStream Digital, or also known as DUSTIN. Our commitment is to deliver a super app that will be a one-stop shop for all their services. This partnership will further complement DST in continuing its digital transformation journey. This is to enhance their digital customer experience, to provide better, smart lifestyle, and to support the Brunei's government's smart nation objectives. As a MULTISYS system platforms has the capability to support paperless transactions and streamline government processes. Now, however, DST is just one of the many overseas partners of MULTISYS. We are somehow becoming an IT-BPO company ourselves as we expand our software services further within the Southeast Asia. Another solution I'd like to mention is our development of StaySafe.ph, which was carefully vetted and made the country's contact tracing platform, where other countries took notice of. Not to name them, but we had at least 7 countries looking to adapt and implement StaySafe within their nation as well. This is especially monumental, not just for the company, but for the country as well, as to further highlight the Filipinos' tech ingenuity abroad. Indeed, we are witnessing the rise and demand of IT-BPO services to help the Philippines' economic recovery and to digitally transform operations. But even with this, let's not also forget to help our kababayans, our fellow countrymen, tayong mga Pinoy in micro, small, medium enterprise nationwide. Let's support local industries. Let's set aside competitions and work to merge our strength together. IT-BPO may be the helm for the economic recovery, but we can only do so much as a tech company if we don't lend our shoulders and work with others. By helping each other, facing the COVID-19 pandemic could be the storm to reset how we worked before and adapt to changes. Now, at this time, more than ever, to align business strategies not only for us, to to prepare ourselves for possible disruptions in the future, but to also forge partnerships within the Philippines and overseas.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights, Ivan. Now here to demonstrate and show us practical applications of various technologies, redefining how the eBPO sector can collaborate better in the new future of work, let's all welcome Corporate Solutions Manager under Enterprise Strategic Solutions of PLDT Enterprise, John Riego de Dios.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the DigiCon. In the next few minutes, I will be sharing to you some of the insights and the services that we're looking forward because of this pandemic that we're experiencing right now. That which technology evolves, working from home has been a very increasing contentious topic, with more and more accepting that it would become our mode of work already. Still, even the most forward-thinking organizations were in shock because of the sudden need to implement telecommute operations. In a rush to return to normalcy, we implemented the most pertinent solutions for us to remain connected: high-speed internet, whitelist gadgets, and an agreed-upon conferencing solution, among others. While the usual setup time needed to put all of this in place for the telecommute operations takes months and even years, depending on the complexity and the size of the business, it took us almost only a week or two to implement all of this. While this speaks highly of how agile business has become and how quickly we can adapt to technology, this also highlights the scary truth. We weren't really that prepared. Many businesses today are still vulnerable in our haste to neglect the undergoing necessary protocols to ensure the safety and integrity of applications and practices we've been utilizing. Months ago, news reports came out detailing how Zoom, conferencing tool of choice for many enterprises today, is prone to hacking and can even consider malware for some situations. Yet, many enterprises have been using this tool since they began working from home. Perhaps given the flexibility and ease of use, many thought the tool to be neglecting the possible constraints and data privacy, security, accessibility, and operational efficiency together. While it is important to quickly set up and deploy telecommute so we can continue serving our customers, it is just as pertinent for organizations, especially those who handle sensitive data, such as the members of the IT BPM industry, to be diligent about implanting their work of home strategies. The COVID-19 pandemic has triggered the world's largest even work-from-home experiment, as businesses were called to consider how to effectively utilize their employees while almost minimizing physical contact. Over the months, we've seen already a lot of businesses or even the leaders announcing that the remote work is here to stay, long even after the pandemic subsides. Some companies like Google have already announced all of these workers that don't need to be on-site can extend their work-from-home arrangement until the end of the year. Others like Twitter and Facebook have committed to letting people work remotely forever if they so choose. As millions of workers around the world stretch into their 6th month of navigating through the new normal, companies are focused to run growing mobile workforce. Many organizations was able to test and measure the ability of their company to respond to crises that affect local back office, IT operations such as local data centers or joint facilities. Remote employees require the same level of access to company tools and systems that they would in the office, including corporate email, productivity tools, CRM, ERP, proprietary applications, and even the public internet. Accessing these workforce applications with private and public cloud infrastructure and managing an unprecedented influx of remote users bring new challenges for many organizations. The proliferation of coronavirus indicates that many businesses are rushing to cloud computing. Thanks to the cloud technologies, web-based application, virtual desktops, endpoint encryption, conferencing software, VPN, or we call virtual private networking, and other cloud-enhanced tools make remote work possible and anywhere in the world. Okay, let's visualize the setup in the typical office. They have everything they need to execute their work effectively and efficiently. They have a laptop, a desktop with high specs Office LAN application, a stable connection, IP phone, headset. As operations shift to the home setup, all this must be present from them to continue their productivity. But there will be limitations. Now let's check the work from home setup. They have a laptop and broadband enterprise-grade connection, whether it could be fixed, fiber-based telecommute, or even a wireless connectivity by the smart routers. They usually use a smart 5G to enable mobile phones for internal coordination among their teammates. This alone can enable them to work. Now the question is, are these enough for the same level of productivity when they were in an office setup? They'll be running multiple applications which they can only access when they're connected in an Office LAN setup. With this, they'll need to establish a connection back to the head office. We can do this in multiple ways, considering if they need to access the private network only or both private network and the cloud environment. Now, they can connect to the head office. What we want to make sure is that the traffic of these applications are prioritized over the connection. How much bandwidth is needed for the application, either 1, 2, 3, and so on. And we also want to make sure that this will provide you a full desktop authenticated experience while still having some level of control over the agents in their remote workstations. And these activities are at the most protected with the advanced endpoint security. Most of the time, the agents engage in calls, and we need to make sure that the voice quality is the same as it is in an office setup. You might be considering deploying a cloud voice-ready voice solution, adding soft phones applications, or even a different solution or AI solution being explored by BPOs. Lastly, if at all possible, having these agents take home the IP phones they have in the office. Of course, we want this arrangement for us to be able to provide consistent quality service for our customers, even after shifted to a different operation mode. Now we go to the applications that these agents are trying to access. So how do we make sure that these are well connected, a stable connection from the work from home agents to the applications in the cloud or even in a server abroad? Even over an internet connection, an accelerated and secure connection to business applications and cloud environments is preferred. This is made possible through PLDT ZAP. PLDT Zero Trust Acceleration Platform, or in short we call it ZAP, can connect to any device, anywhere, to any cloud using any internet connection. With ZAP, as a secure network overlay via the internet, you can improve your users' access to your applications, whether they are on-site, in the office, or even from home. You can connect your public cloud located in any continent or even the private cloud from any data center using devices and equipment that need to be online. ZAP is very agile, using purely software for both your users and your cloud apps. ZAP is secure with its 5-layer security that starts with the Zero Trust platform that connects only upon authentication. It also has a high performance optimizing the path to the cloud using machine learning and neural networks. And lastly, it is also flexible, capable to any network configuration that you have. There have been very great examples of public cloud providers helping businesses scale into an increased work from home demand. It is in this context that they'll be able to introduce the US network solution from PLDT called Cloud Connect. With Cloud Connect, it is a solution that makes cloud services perform better because it is founded in ePLDT's international private line service. Accessing the cloud via the PLDT Connect service means secure and reliable deployment of workloads via the direct connectivity that negates the unreliable public internet and ensures predictable network performance. With PLDT Cloud Connect, you can quickly establish on-demand scalable connectivity with major public cloud providers. To further make sure they're well connected with stable connection to their application and solutions, we can put their application and solutions in a reliable infrastructure, such as hosting it in a data center like Vitro, Azure, or any cloud platform of their choice. We can also manage and monitor their infrastructure and security. Outsourcing the maintenance of their viable IT infrastructure to an IT expert will enable them to focus on innovating and transforming digital experience for their customers and keeping their employees engaged. The future result is a stable, resilient, robust infrastructure to support business operations and adapt to any situation, other man-made or even natural disasters. PLDT's vision is to be the top of mind as the digital enabler for digital companies seeking to improve their operations and lower the total cost of ownership by maintaining and operating their IT infrastructure and information securities while embarking on a digital transformation journey. The managed ICT services will change the way companies think about managed services. We've talked the talk and we've walked the walk. Now it's time to share some stories with how we've walked the walk. Here are some of the photos of our team members throughout the lockdown or even the quarantine period to ensure that our clients were able to continue despite the challenges we faced. Admittedly, it was really a huge challenge for us. The influx of orders, the requests, and even the stock inventory in order for us to do this in a short span of time. Every day was really a mission. Whatever we could do to get all of these services to you was what we want to deliver. On behalf of PLDT Enterprise, I would like to thank you for your time with us today in addressing all of this to you.
Indeed, there is so much that enterprises, large or small, can do with the solutions and technologies that we have today. So let's hear what some of them have to say and what they look forward to with our services. Let's all welcome Senior Vice President of SBI Global, Ms. Celeste Ilan.
SBI Global is the biggest provider of services to a niche market composed of publishers in scientific, technical, and medical research, in education and e-learning, and also in business services. We try very hard to be ahead of the curve to be able to provide the best of services to our clients and be their partner of choice. And therefore, we make sure that our tools and technology platforms are driven by the latest technologies like AI and automation. We are at least 95% productive at this point, composed of work from home and skeletal workforce, but majority of our employees are actually working from home. We are grateful for the support of partners like PLDT who have helped us roll out smoothly our BCP plans in the earlier days to make sure that our employees are able to work from home productively. While we had adjusted well to our current setup, we had early challenges in setting up work from home for our employees. It's not easy to be able to deploy equipment to thousands of employees living in different parts of the city and even outside of the city. Our IT is therefore always on their toes to make sure that they are able to support our employees, especially in making sure that connectivity is always stable. And we are grateful for the partnership with PLDT as they always make sure that they are there to support our needs whenever we ask for this. PLDT has been a long-time partner of SBI Global. They have been there long before the pandemic and during the pandemic. They have been there in good times and bad. In this business, when prompt response and fast delivery of service is critical in meeting our clients' SLAs, We are grateful to have partners like PLDT that support us all the way. I believe, though, that the key factor in this partnership, more than technology, is communication. We are happy to know that we are able to communicate with PLDT at all levels, and they are always there to listen and make sure that they are flexible with our requirements. Connectivity is the lifeblood of our business, and we rely on PLDT to provide the connectivity solutions that is suited to our requirements, like point-to-point connectivity, connectivity of internet in our offices, and mobile internet connectivity to make sure that our employees are able to work from home productively. COVID-19 has changed the world irreversibly. We are working and living in a new normal. For SPI Global, we are looking at a long-term work from home beyond the pandemic. It is therefore important to find solutions that will make working remotely more scalable and more secure. We look at PLDT for two things: to help us extend our offices to our employees' homes, and second is to learn new approaches to information security that will make our business stronger and even better.
Like Ms. Ilagan of SPI Global, we look forward to servicing others like that. What a great presentation. I hope that segment was as informative and insightful for all of you as it was for me.
Key in your questions, comments, and suggestions via the chat.
Alright, so now that you've discovered and learned about the latest technologies and solutions designed to reinvent your businesses, it's time for us to entertain questions. So at this point, let me introduce you again to our esteemed panelists, beginning with Mark LWIN, Managing Director of Reed Elsevier Philippines. We have Celeste Ilagan, Senior Vice President for External Affairs of SPI Global, Mr. Victor ALIWALAS, Corporate Relationship Management Advisor of PLDT Enterprise, Mr. DUSTIN KEHOE, Service Director for Asia Pacific of GLOBALDATA, Ivan DIUNGA, Project Management Head of MULTISYS, and John Riego de Dios, Corporate Solutions Manager of Enterprise Strategic Solutions of PLDT Enterprise. Again, to all our delegates, do engage with us by typing in your questions in the chat box. All right, looks like our first question is up, and this is addressed to Mr. Mark LWIN from Luisa Garcia. Her question goes, with the ongoing consolidation of BPO providers and the drive to deliver greater economies of scale, is it possible to provide both competitive pricing and a highly customized experience for specific industries?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it really highlights past trends in the BPO industry, but also potentially some divergence in the future about where these trends will take us. Because on one hand, we've seen a great deal of consolidation, as well as the march towards globalization and global business process, and as well as the need for greater investment and learning and experience to deploy these new technologies. So that suggests that scale, breadth, the generalist, as well as the focus on technology is a key driver for competitive advantage and being competitive in this space. But on the other hand, I think with a lot of the new technologies, especially AI and definitely with data analytics, what this suggests is that the depth and the specificity of domain expertise is going to come more and more to the forefront. Because you have to be able to provide very relevant and impactful insights using your data, which means that you have to really understand the industry space in which you're operating. If I use maybe Relics, for example, particularly LexisNexis, one of our larger companies which supports the legal industry. Over the last 10 years, we've gone through this transformation, moving from what has been historically a very print-centric product to completely online and digital. But what's more remarkable about that transformation isn't so much the move to digital, but now it's how we create value, which is providing analytics, insights, practical guidance to a very sophisticated clientele, lawyers, attorneys, and law firms. So what that suggests and what that demands from us is the ability to really understand the industry, really understand the issues, really understand the customer base, even as the industry itself continues to change and morph with technology. So I think the point is that the specialists, whether it's an industry practice group or a captive or a specialized firm in the BPO space, is going to become more and more critical. And ultimately, it's the ability to create value, which is going to then be able to be really the reference point or the measurement point for what is competitive pricing. Can you create relevant insights, relevant impact through the value of your services?
Right, very well said. Again, data is nothing without value creation. So this next question is addressed to Mr. ALIWALAS. And it goes, what are some of the exciting investments of the PLDT group that will potentially help the BPO industry? Victor.
Thank you very much for that question. It's quite appropriate because earlier I had mentioned that we are nearing around 360,000 kilometers worth of fiber optic cables nationwide. And just 3 hours ago, on one of our Twitter feeds through PLDT, it's actually now 395,000 kilometers. So just in a matter of time, I just realized that we're 35,000 more than what I originally thought we were at. So you can see that the investments, particularly $70 billion in CapEx for 2020, have already come to fruition. I think one major point for the BPO industry would be the resiliency and redundancy of these fiber optic cables going into the provincial areas, Visayas region, Mindanao region, to support a lot of the external BPOs, other branches of the BPOs in the Visayas and Mindanao area. Now, unfortunately, we have issues with a lot of cable breaks, a lot of fiber breaks, whether it's accidental by DPWH, whether it's weather-related, or a third-party telco contractor that accidentally digs into our cables. So you can expect to see a lot more resiliency, a lot more roots, and a lot more redundancy with these investments. And again, that's just one aspect of what's to look forward to. We have the copper to fiber migration, which should be done by 2021, more 5G and LTE availability, and I guess more investment as well into the international undersea cables in collaboration with major global players. So we have a new cable that's going from the Philippines all the way to the US that actually terminates in Seattle, Washington, and Hermosa Beach, California, whereas most of them end up in the Los Angeles area. So we're diversifying our paths in that regard as well. So a lot more stuff to come, especially for the BPO industry.
All right, really exciting infra investments right there. We'll wait for that to come to fruition even more. But for our third question, this one goes out to Ms. Celeste Ilagan, and it's from Dominique Jacob. And it goes, SBI Global seems to have transitioned quite well to a mix of work from home and work at center setup, even indicating a 95% productivity rate. So how about the industry as a whole? What's the situation like? And how did it get there, Ms. Celeste?
Thank you for that question, Sean. And I'm happy to share that the industry is in very much the same numbers as SBI Global. There is a recent survey done by the eBPO. It's ongoing, and we'll have the numbers, the final numbers next week. And they indicate almost a 95% productivity rate also. A combination of work from home and the skeletal workforce. And I guess that augurs well for the industry, but how did we get there? The industry players will say that at a great cost to all of them, meaning that when the quarantines were declared, there's a lot of expense in deploying work from home equipment, connectivity to the workers' homes. It is also expenses around accommodations and also shuttle services. And therefore, these are unplanned expenses that you really don't have any choice but, to spend. And therefore, it did not come cheap. But, you know, these are the realities of the situation. You know, you have a BCP to your BCP. But on top of all that, I think what is important to call out is that there are three factors that went well for our industry. We have a strong industry association that led us through this crisis. The IBPAP has made sure that it provides its members with all of the updates that are needed so that they can quickly pivot and comply with the requirements of government, you know, ATF and, you know, different agencies of government. And that's important. The next is also having, you know, industry players that are engaged and collaborative. And this means that they make sure that, you know, they share best practices among each other. If there are issues and concerns that they encounter, we have a venue by which to ask each other what we can do and make sure that we are all on the same page. And so it helps tremendously that, you know, there is an industry that takes the welfare of the country and the industry together with its own concern for its operations. And the third factor, I think that helped us tremendously also is the strong support of government. Early on, they made sure that we have a clear and simple path to communicating with them, that we are able to raise our concerns quickly and that they are able to answer our concerns quickly as well. And this is, you know, even in simple communication platforms like Viber, where even secretaries of these agencies like the DTI, DOLE, BOI, PEZA, are part of this communication platform by which they give us regular and prompt updates on our concerns. So I think all of these factors taken together brought us to where we are, and we continue to make sure that this robust environment continues so that the industry also maintains its image as, you know, the biggest generator of employment for the country and the source of revenue, especially during these times of emergency. So I guess that is good news for all of us.
Indeed, it is good news to see that 95% productivity rate across the industry while everyone working together, Ms. Celeste. Now, our next question is addressed to Dustin, and this is from Joaquin Luna. The question is, how do you think BPOs will change the future of work?
Well, thank you. That's a really good question. And part of the answer is what I heard from the other panelists. We heard about network connectivity and route diversity. Well, that's really important because our home, the places that we're at now, is actually our new branch. It's actually going to be our new contact center workstation. And so when we're thinking about BCP and BCP on top of BCP, the future of work is having a cloud, but being able to have a remote and distributed environment. We heard about places like Mindanao and reaching, you know, rural areas. Well, to me, that talks about a talent pool, being able to reach out to people who are our contact center workers in remote areas, in rural areas, as well as the city, and connecting all of them that offer a skill set, like giving phenomenal customer service, for example. But there's a technology aspect. We're going to see technology changes. Do you remember the old contact center environments where the supervisor 6 months ago, a year ago, would walk up and down the aisle and may give our staff some coaching? Well, right now, that voice is becoming data, and data is being captured in analytics, and it's going to be the real-time QA or quality assurance analytics that's going to offer a different way of doing coaching remotely. I can't hear you in your home, but I can still dial in and perhaps offer some value there. But the thing that is interesting is the people aspect. Think about this in the longer term. It's interesting. We have multiple generations of a workforce, an older one, Gen X like me, or maybe like my parents, the baby boomers, to the Gen Ys, the millennials, and everybody else. All different generations have different ways of working, and we sort of know that. So what we kind of need is the other thing is we're all going to be virtual. We can have a team one day, managing a team that we've actually never had a cup of coffee with. We've met online, we trained them online, we've mentored them, we've promoted them, all virtually. So it's really around like best-of-breed technology with new ways to manage a virtualized, remote, distributed workforce, very heterogeneous, is probably going to have something to do with what the future of work really ties in as it relates to business process outsourcing.
All right,
I hope that answers it.
That does. It does really tell us how good of a use case the BPO sector is in general, and how other sectors can definitely learn from the BPO experience, especially amid the pandemic. All right, time for our next question. This one goes out to John Riego de Dios. It's from Bong Serrano. Bong wants to know, John, given the new normal, what else can PLDT bring forward to support the BPO industry and the digital economy? Hi, John. Can you turn on your mic? Sorry, I think you might be on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Good evening again, everyone. Thank you for that question. PLDT continues to invest and to provide more services to our clients, not only to the enterprise, but also to the home itself. As I mentioned in my previous slide earlier, providing you all of the services that we can provide to our clients itself, from data center to cloud, to cybersecurity, to data analytics, to manage IT services, to even more security on your internet, to the home, to the client's premises, or even to the cloud premises itself. So we continue all of these services, and we do provide more investment in this in order to promote all of these services to our clients.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that, John. Now, Ivan, I like this question. It's also from Bong, and it's very forward-looking. The question goes, how do you see the future of IT BPO in the Philippines?
Thanks, Sean. Well, we see a great future for the IT BPO. Internally in the Philippines, the median age is 23.5. It's like a golden era for the labor force. Of course, like Ms. Celeste mentioned earlier, we have the government supporting the BPO industry. In the nascent stage of the BPO, we can see the challenges of BPO. And also here in the Philippines, we can see the growth of IT. Almost all systems are made by Filipinos already. And this pandemic will up the overseas companies to consider outsourcing. So these are the elements that will make a great future for the IT BPO.
Again, like everyone has said, it's also really the people. Dustin, you said this. And unfortunately, we're down to our last question, and this one is for Victor again. It's from George Marcelino asking, BPO in the Philippines was forecasted to go beyond voice services this year. How has this changed due to COVID-19 and the pandemic, and what is the prediction for the transformation of the industry for 2021 and beyond?
Well, that's a very good question. I think it should also go to some of the BPO execs here. But to be honest with you, we've seen a consistent flow of business from all sorts of lines of business, whether it's voice-based, whether it's a high-value service KPO, whether it's finance, accounting, legal. Voice will always be there because the Philippines is obviously known for their great accents, the adaptability to the U.S. culture, Western culture. So I think voice is always going to be a very major component. We have almost 800,000 employees locally that are consistently doing voice. But to be honest with you, I really feel that with the upskilling and reskilling and training of all the employees in the Philippines and the talent pool, it's really going to diversify even more. So I predict personally, based on, not a prediction, but based on what I'm hearing from my colleagues and my clients, that the focus is really going to go not just voice, but the higher KPOs. And I think we have the talent, we have the skill, and ideally we have the right infrastructure now to support any line of business, whether it's voice or like I said, a higher KPO.
All right, definitely something to look forward to. Something that we really could use this year is something to look forward to. Again, thank you very much, Mark, Celeste, Victor, Dustin, Ivan, and John for answering everyone's questions and letting us pick your brain. And if there are no more questions at this point, we would like to thank our presenters and panelists for spending this memorable afternoon or evening with us. All right, so I think there are no more questions. Yeah, just double checking that we don't have any more questions. So I would just like to take the time out to thank our official event partners. To all our delegates, thank you again for tuning in. You can get a chance to win these exciting raffle prizes, don't forget, just by answering our feedback form that will be flashed on your screens after the program. Once again, I'm Sean Yao, and this has been The Impact of Business Transformation featuring eBPO Breakout Session of the Philippine Digital Convention 2020, brought to you by PLDT Enterprise, Smart, and ePLDT.